Well, I completely forgot to change the stream information, so the current new title is certainly accurate. We are, in fact, rather sleep deprived. I left all the stream information from Sunday. Oops. It's okay, we're doing so good and swell and fine. Don't worry about it. Anyway, how y'all doing? I am... Okay, what the fuck is this? Oh, they changed up the dashboard for subtitles. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I think we're fine. Ish. Well. We'll see how this goes. If something is broken for once, it's not my fault this time. Alright, anyway. Let's finally get some going live notifications out here. So who is looking forward to the Nintendo Direct that I'm definitely not going to watch? I'm not gonna lie, I was debating, like, oh, maybe we'll do like a Nintendo Direct co-working reaction type deal, but I was just thinking like, I'm not gonna care nearly enough about like 95% of the things that are being announced. If anything, because like, that's the thing, I don't own a Switch 2, I still just own the basic bitch Switch. Like, a lot of Nintendo properties, like, they're not bad. I'm not saying any of them are bad. Mario is fine. Zelda is fine. It just doesn't particularly interest me personally. So I'm like, yeah, okay, that's neat. I'm not gonna try it, but that's neat. I mean, not that I won't try it, but it doesn't interest me, but that's neat. That's not a particularly interesting reaction, I think. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm so tired. Been up at fucking 6 a.m. Oh god. I talked about how, in Discord, about how we are adapting to Ben's new work schedule, which is finally more of a normal schedule, and it's going to be far more consistent, which is great, and I love that. But it's also early. His alarm goes off at 6 a.m., which means I get up at 6 a.m. Yeah, I'm already yawning. I'm so tired. Okay, so we are just gonna go ahead and hop right into this mything. Where's the, oh fuck, I'm so disorganized right now. Hold up. Okay. Beep. Boop. And beep. Alright. So, co-working. We are continuing our watch along. We are just over halfway through the Chennel Nikison. God. I'm so not here today. Apologies in advance, y'all. Anyway, last time we did a co-working stream, we started and got more than halfway through the Jenny Nicholson video, Evermore, the theme park that wasn't. Y'all, please make sure you support creators of the videos we're watching by watching the videos in full on their channels without my silly ass commentary and these anti-copyright filter bullshits we put over the video. Not that, you know, I think any of the particular creators that I'm watching will cause copyright problems, but sometimes they do include music, clip, TV show, movie clips, that type of stuff, so just to be on the safe side. I don't want to fuck around with no DMCA daddy. Not today, not ever. Anyway, so we're going to continue. Music? Shh. We're going to continue and hopefully finish this video today. And then perhaps I will go pass the fuck out. Who's to say? Yeah, the Nintendo Direct, I believe, starts in less than half an hour. And like I said, I'm not going to be watching it, but I will be peeking over its socials to just kind of check, see if there's anything that I am particularly interested in that's being released. What I would really like, what would so severely make my day, is Pikmin 4 DLC. Really anything Pikmin related, TBH, but especially Pikmin 4 DLC. That would be swell. I would like that very much. Anyway, once again, this video we're watching today, which we started previously. If you're behind, I don't know what to tell you, babes. Anyway, video. Evermore, the theme park that wasn't, by Jenny Nicholson. Support creators by watching their videos on their own channels in full. Thank you very much. Anyway, we go.
Part 13, the attractions. I'm going to play fast and loose with the concept of attractions because Evermore doesn't really have any in the traditional sense, but you know, here we go. In the large grassy area at the back of the park, there are a few physical activities on offer: archery, axe throwing, and the battle arena. Archery and axe throwing usually cost extra, but on this occasion they were free, which was nice. However, on the day we were there, nobody working could figure out how to get the signs down that said they cost money, so we only found that out by approaching. I would imagine that many visitors assumed it cost money and just didn't do it for that reason. Both activities were cool. They're kind of just designed for you to do each one once, but it's a unique and cool activity. I will say that the archery range felt super unsafe to me. I've taken a handful of archery classes throughout my life, and in my experience, anytime you have a class involving any kind of weapon, you get a whole long pep talk about safety, what to do, what not to do. Like, usually everybody is lined up with bows and arrows, and you're firmly told not to point it at anybody for any reason, basic instructions about how to shoot, and instructions about when you're allowed to shoot, because usually everybody shoots at once, again for safety, so no one gets shot with an arrow. So usually in like a group archery setting, somebody shouts that you can begin shooting, and then everybody does, and once everybody is done, you all physically put your bows down before anyone is allowed to go and retrieve arrows. Again, so you don't get shot with an arrow. When we did it, it was kind of just like, okay, here's a bow and some arrows, and you start shooting whenever you feel like it. He's gonna go badly. He's gonna go badly. He's gonna go badly. Oh, okay, that's a target. My friend Kirsten had never shot a bow before and was hardcore struggling, and we were all trying to help her out, but none of us were good enough at archery to really help her. You got it, you got it. I do not got it. Okay, let me People were dropping arrows and bending to pick them up from past the line into the archery range, which is always a huge no-no in my experience. Meanwhile, others are still actively shooting past or over their heads. It was chaos. It was a hot mess. Nobody got hurt the day I was there, but it obviously felt like a giant accident waiting to happen. Oh, now is probably as good a time as any to mention that you have to sign a waiver when you buy your tickets online. So, you know, if you trip or get shot in the liver with an arrow, the park isn't liable for that. But really, maybe I should say, they present you with a waiver. To be honest, if you're not comfortable signing it, just don't do it. The site was really glitchy. We all tried to sign the waiver in good faith, but the form just like wouldn't accept half of our group. Honestly, before we showed up, I was worried that that was going to be like a big hassle when we arrived, because obviously you have to sign the waiver.
Literally,
and we haven't, and who knows if you can sign it in person on site.
No.
I thought it was going to really slow us down. But when we went, it turned out that they don't appear to actually have any way to see if you've signed it or not. Or they did have a way, and it was broken when we went, just like everything else. The park doesn't seem that safe. You might get shot with an arrow. maybe just don't sign the waiver. Anyway, I mentioned that in 2018 they used to have little passports to stamp when you got a bullseye at archery to prove your accomplishment and make it a concrete task. They didn't have that anymore when I went. We did the axe throwing. I hated it. I'm probably not going to show the footage because it's embarrassing. I couldn't concentrate. The whole time I was just thinking that I was going to accidentally cleave my skull in twain. Oh yeah, and Kate wasn't allowed to do the axe throwing because she wore open-toed shoes, which is fine and makes sense, but again, that would be a good reason to put a dress code on the site. I did specifically ask before I went if open-toed shoes were okay on the fan page, and everybody said, yeah, probably. It turns out they weren't. In the wintertime, Evermore advertises an extra attraction, an ice skating rink. The rink, like everything else, costs extra, but according to online reviews, the skating rink is not an actual ice rink, it's a synthetic rink. So a sheet of greasy, slippery plastic. The battle arena costs extra and is basically this netted off tent where kids wail on each other with foam wrapped weapons, which is my idea of a nightmare, but the kids seem to really like it, so cool. Also in this area they have these performers who take turns doing aerial silks. This is impressive, so it's kind of weird to me that it's stuck back in this out of the way location behind all these vendor tents. A lot of people didn't even seem to know they were there. Next up, the train! Man, I love trains. The train also costs extra. It's $3 a person, which again,
okay,
fine.
So one of Ben's friends and classmates, Andrew, shout out Andrew, I will be astonished if he's watching now or in the future. Anyway, he's so fun because he's so into trains. Like, he's the stereotypical, like, autistic guy, like, and I mean that in, like, the best way. I don't mean that as an insult at all. I'm also autistic, but I have the cute things autism, where I'm obsessed with, like, cute and adorable things. Andrew is literally obsessed with trains, and it's so fun. Like, I have very vivid memories of, I don't even remember what it was like a couple years ago, I think. Yeah, I think it was like 2 years ago, where, like, we were driving somewhere and there's, like, train tracks that kind of run through our town and stuff, and it's just, we got caught up. I'm having a hard time with my words today. I'm so sorry. I'm so tired. Sleep evaded me greatly last night. Anyway, so there was a train going by, and so we were sitting at the tracks, but we had to be somewhere kind of urgently, and so Ben just texted Andrew, and he was like, oh, well, you're at this place at this time, and it's this day, so it's probably this train. You're probably gonna be there for a while because it's doing this thing, so you're gonna want to turn around and find an alternate route. So that was very fun, and Andrew was very knowledgeable and helpful, and it's, yeah. I've hung out with Andrew like once or twice. He's a good lad. And, yeah, it is a little odd because, like I mentioned, he is Ben's college classmate. Andrew is college age. Ben is not. So Andrew is much younger than the both of us. Like, he only, I think just earlier this year turned 21. So yeah. It feels, there's times where it's like, it feels like when we've gone out and about with him, it feels like he's been mistaken for our son. Which is its own kind of, like, horrible, but, you know, like, oh, do I really look old enough to have a 21-year-old son? Okay, this is fine. Although Andrew does kind of look a little baby-faced. It's fine. I don't know why I'm going on this tangent. Like I said, I'm sleep-deprived. It was all no thoughts, head empty.
But, like, there's so little to do in the entire park that it does feel a little insulting for anything to cost extra at this point. Anyway, we bought the tickets. You'll remember that they disappeared from my online purchase, but that's okay. We sorted it out. We got in line for the train. I saw it was mostly empty and was like, hooray! We can sit in the caboose!
I'll remember to the bench.
Okay.
Should we go to the caboose? Oh wait, I don't think it's open.
She's not okay.
Oh, okay, cool.
It actually turned out that we could not sit in the caboose. When they had pulled the train up to the station, they had apparently lined it up in such a way that the caboose was inaccessible from the boarding platform. It wasn't supposed to be this way, it was just a mistake, but they didn't feel like turning the train on and moving it a little, so we couldn't ride in the caboose.
Oh, that's why we can't ride in the caboose. They didn't pull far forward enough, so we can't step onto it. That's so sad.
You're probably like, that's a bad sign. And it is. It's not really about riding in the caboose. The caboose is symbolic. Anyway, the train ride was actually pretty nice. It's a decent length, so you at least feel like you're getting your $3 worth. It moves at a nice clip, and you get a serene, elevated view of the park. It also gave me a new angle to look at the backs of buildings and construction sites, which I was interested in.
Oh, and there's the bridge that would have the monster. That's where the monster would go. That's the pad where he'd be installed. And then maybe more creatures would go there. Oh.
Hidden in the brush at this point, David spotted this gnarly old pig just kind of sitting abandoned there in the grass. One thing I found very odd about the train is that it didn't have any kind of narration. I guess I was imagining something kind of like the Disneyland train, where like a pre-recorded voice on the speakers narrating the sights as you pass them to like provide lore or interest you in the various attractions.
I thought they'd have like a narration like Disneyland.
I said you knew train.
And if they didn't want to record it, they could just have the person driving the train say it over a speaker in real time. In fact, doing it that way would give them more flexibility, so they could like interact with passers-by or point out characters that they see. I saw some old reviews complaining about the train, saying that it does in fact have a sound system, and that when it first opened they would just play like top 40s pop music on the radio. The reviews were mad about that because it felt lazy and it totally took them out of the time period. So, you know, I guess compared to that, having a silent train ride was preferable. But I do feel like immersive audio is another one of those small touches that would have a negligible amount of setup but make a big difference for guests. I can even see that the website says, our train conductor is always telling stories about happenings in the village. And no, he isn't. So that's the train.
Sad train. Oh no.
It scared me.
Andrew
There
would
was
be
a
so
small
disappointed.
workstation in the tavern where you could pay extra to assemble your own potion by layering different things in jars. I guess that kind of counts as an attraction. I didn't see anyone doing it. I might have tried it if it was more bespoke vessels or ingredients, something with Evermore branding on them, but it definitely seemed like a craft that one could do at home. There's the bird show, which is included in the price of admission, called Wings of Evermore. Here you've got a little edutainment for the kids. They bring out a series of cool birds and reptiles and tell you interesting facts about them. The Wings of Evermore actually used to have a late night counterpart called Monsters of Evermore. That sounds so cool, and I thought it would take a fantastical spin, like showcasing puppets, animatronics, maybe statues of fantastical beasts, but I was only half right. It appears to be an entirely skull-based show. Some of the skulls and other bones are of fantastical creatures, and I assume they were made in-house by the sculpture team, but then they're mixed in with real bones from things like hippos and lions. I'm very charmed, though, by this concept of an edutainment format applied to fantasy creatures.
Our hunters go off the beaten path out in the forest, and there have been attacks. Nobody's been seriously harmed or killed, but the Blackhearts tonight asked us to warn you of these creatures. So if you're near bushes, make sure you're always aware of what's around you so that one of these giant vampire bats doesn't get you.
But I do think it's sort of confusing to add real animals and real facts into the same mix. And surely, if they're making stuff in-house anyway, they could do better than just bones. I feel like they could even have a lot of flexibility in that they could keep the creatures in cages, say that they're too dangerous to bring them out, so the views of them are partially obscured. Anyway, I really liked the bird show. I thought it was well presented, well paced, and a good bite-sized length. I like to look at parrots and big lizards as much as any American. I do think calling it a show and putting wings in the title is a little misleading because most bird shows at theme parks, zoos, and wildlife rescues involve basic tricks like flying and hunting behaviors. In this one, they really just carry out the birds and let you look at them. But, I mean, it's not boring. My biggest issue with this show is the venue. As I've said, it's held in a greenhouse called the glass house. It's so obvious when you're in the building that the building and the show were not created with each other in mind. A greenhouse is a very cool structure, in part because it's got so many windows. Here, the show and the storage of live animals has necessitated a backstage area, which means they've bisected the building with long fabric drapes. You pass the backstage half of the building while you're lined up for the show, and you can see that either for privacy or temperature control, they've pasted butcher paper up over those side windows. One of the most striking things about a greenhouse is that the light pours in, or if you're at a theme park and you keep it open at night, light pours out, and it looks beautiful. But instead they've chosen to negate the architectural element that was the entire appeal of the building. It doesn't even work particularly well as a show space. The area remaining after they've sectioned it off is a little cramped, with limited capacity for guests, and they've just thrown a few rows of benches in on the floor. The building has air conditioning and heat for the animals, but it doesn't seem like it was built with that. It seems like they've just brought in like a swamp cooler and kind of permanently affixed it inside. And it's very loud, so they run it between shows and then have to turn it off whenever they have people inside, or else they wouldn't be able to hear the show. So the whole time you're in there, it's like a ticking clock where you can feel yourself slowly cooking. So if this bird show was always in the cards, I don't understand why there couldn't be a purpose-built location with a dedicated backstage and place to store the animals, better temperature regulation, maybe a place for actors to change. A venue like that wouldn't just be for the show. It could be useful for a lot of reasons. You could use it as a space for important story events, maybe guild meetings in character, I don't know, whatever, employee training, whatever you want. Anyway, finally, I'd like to talk about my favorite attraction. Well, favorite is misleading. I mean the one where I think the story is the funniest. Actually, favorite was misleading, but attraction is also misleading. I don't know if I would call it that. Maybe technically it counts because it had a line outside. In fact, of the entire day, this was the single longest line we stood in. There's this crypt at the back of the park next to a cemetery. When we first encountered it early on day one, it was locked up tight, but we heard it had opened later that night and we had just missed it because we were stuck in the tavern. I'll get to that later. So anyway, on day 2, I was determined to go inside because I couldn't miss it. So we first rocked up to it on day 2. There was already a generous line. The setup seemed built to accommodate a line. The building had a one-way flow of traffic with one entrance and one exit on the other side, and leading up to the exit was a narrow, winding pathway. We tried to ask everybody in line what we were waiting for, but nobody really knew.
Through a dark building.
No, I mean, we saw concept art. It'll be something, I think.
I had a pretty good guess. In the BuzzFeed video and a few other vlogs, I'd seen the little haunted house walkthrough with the creepy vampires, but we hadn't seen them anywhere in the park yet. The line kept pausing for stretches at a time and then moving forward by one entire group, kind of like the Universal Studios mazes they do at Halloween time. So I figured we were lining up for a creepy vampire haunted house. As we rounded the corner into the stuffy hallway of the crypt, we saw that there was an employee manning the line. We tried to ask her what we were in line for, and unfortunately she was in character, so she was like, "I don't rightly know. That's not for me to say."
Well, we felt some kind of dark magic in it.
Oh.
That's been a bit of a problem for us.
Should we avoid that?
Well, you're kind of in the thick of it now.
I loved this character's energy. Not the information she gave us, because she didn't give us any, but I loved her energy. We'll be thick as thieves, yes we will. That's me auditioning for
You
the
have a
ride,
line where
Pirates of the
nobody knows
Caribbean.
what's
So
going
the crypt
on. You
isn't
could give an
air-conditioned, We're all
answer.
packed in.
Even in
It was
character.
really warm
Damn.
and muggy. Just, picture that in your mind when you're looking at the footage. But 40 minutes later, longer than I will willingly wait for most rides at Disneyland, it was finally our turn. Our whole group is ushered into a little room, and there's a big screen on one wall that looks like a cool portal.
Ooh.
There's a tunnel. It's just not of water.
No, it's a portal.
Then a guy appears in the middle of the portal. It's basically a Skype call.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear
R.I.P.
you.
Skype.
The connection is stabilized sufficiently.
Wow.
And Portal Guy is like, "What did you bring me?"
We need to accumulate items of value from Evermore. These can be currency if Evermore has currency.
So, yeah, that's right. The thing we waited in line for was just another character interaction, this time with a marginally cool visual effect and a prerequisite fetch quest that we hadn't known we had to do first. And it's not like we were gonna come back.
So it's just like a strictly commercial venture then. You just want to like start up some trade. No? No. Am I talking too quiet?
So, obviously, we were just kind
Good
of
job,
like
guy.
well, we didn't bring you anything. We don't know you. We've never met you before. We're not gonna go on this errand and get you gold only to wait an additional 40 minutes to come back and deliver it. And furthermore, I'm pretty confident that even if we had done what he had asked and brought him whatever items he wanted, he would have just been like, "Ah, excellent. You have done well. My plan is underway." And then nothing cool would have happened. Maybe it would have happened in a week when we weren't there. So the thing in the crypt was the absolute worst thing it could have been. It was comically bad. It just drove home all of the things we were already noticing about the gameplay and how it was bad. I later asked around and found out that this room in the crypt had once held the statue of the sleeping dragon, and in other seasons a creepy meeting hall for a warriors guild. Also, the vampire haunted house I thought we were getting was apparently closed up in the lower level of that same building. It never opened to guests during my visit. And according to some employees, the reason it was closed to guests is allegedly that the technical setup for the portal guy effect has been placed in the vampire crypt. So yeah, the guy in the Skype call was just standing down there in front of a green screen. Because of that, they can only have one or the other attraction at a time, and for some reason they picked this one because, you know, God forbid they put the green screen in one of the other 10 vacant buildings around the property. That's like Disneyland shutting down Pirates of the Caribbean because they put the only corn dog fryer in the center of the ride. We don't know why we did it that way, but that's just the way it is. And you might recall from my coverage of the seasons that Mythos, the season I visited, is billed as a fair and lantern festival. There's this piece of concept art they love to use everywhere, showing a town square with a gargantuan glowing dragon winding through. I'm sure you can't wait to hear about the Lantern Festival, which was promised in the description of the event on the ticket purchasing page. Well, there was no Lantern Festival. In fact, there were no lanterns. It was unclear if there ever had been. On day one, we spotted this jellyfish sitting in a corner, which looked like the jellyfish hanging from the trees in the concept art.
These were in the concept art, the jellyfish.
They were?
Yeah.
Do you think they'll use them at night? Do you think they'll use those in the big glowing dragon at night? I don't think so either.
We saw this metal frame for a large dragon parked in this gravel ditch, and he has a bunch of garbage and like a wheelbarrow of more gravel beneath him.
Wheelbarrow of tools, the dragon.
Ew, oh my god, that's so sad. There's the dragon.
Using the dragon for storage.
So we saw that and we're like, I guess that was meant to be the dragon from the concept art, and they haven't finished it. But in fact, it's actually even sadder than that. I found out via one of the fan pages that this dragon was allegedly made by fans of the park who sell their crafts in the vendor marketplace. One woman posted a video of herself sewing the skin for the dragon. They were inspired by that piece of concept art. It is unclear whether they were compensated for their labor. I also wonder if they made that jellyfish that I saw.
I think we know
it
that
feels
they
possible.
most
Finally,
likely
I had
weren't.
seen indications online that Evermore would have fire dancers, as they've had for previous years of Mythos, or fortune-telling tents, which tied in somehow to the quests. They didn't have either when I went. Okay, one more thing. I didn't even really know what section to put this under, but I've got to mention the Black Arrow ceremony. Near the end of our last night, it was like an hour till closing, and we had literally nothing to do because there's not that much to do in the park, so we were thinking of leaving early. But then on our way out, we went through the tavern, and a character told us that in a half hour, so a half hour before park closing, the Black Arrow ceremony would be happening at the front of town.
Do we get to see who gets the arrow at the end of the night?
It should be about 30 minutes before we close.
Okay, that's soon. Where should we try to be for that?
Front of town, I believe.
Okay, cool.
The Black Arrow was like a MacGuffin that all of the guilds wanted, and yeah, I guess at the end of each night they would say which guild got it. So I was like, okay, some kind of story moment. Yes, I had filmed nothing story related on the trip so far, so I was like, okay, I gotta stay for that. Sorry, friends who wanted to leave. So we went to the front of town to wait for a half hour.
She said it happens at the front of town, so we'll just hang around. I guess this is probably a good place to be.
While we were there, a modestly sized group of other guests formed around us, and like a couple characters came by and remarked upon the upcoming ceremony, so we were like, okay, the event is happening, we're in the right place.
He's prepping for the Black Arrow show. It's gotta happen up there. Is it? I feel like we're so hopeful.
Kind of looks like the Rangers guy.
No, he's not in costume, but I think maybe he's setting up the sound?
But we were all sitting there, and the time for the ceremony came and went. We figured it was just running late, which seemed like a very Evermore thing to have happen. But then a character ran up, frantic, out of breath.
A micro.
Can you say that one more time? What was that?
She was like, there was a microphone issue, so the ceremony couldn't happen here. It was actually moved to the opposite side of the park without warning.
Black Arrow
Oh.
and the tournament champion, they're at the stairs.
Other side? Oh no.
I would say this way.
We're gonna miss it. Oh no! No! Oh my gosh.
And it actually started on time in the new location, so we were already missing it.
Yeah. So that's
You're cheering. Oh no, we're missing it. This can't be happening. They lied to us.
Right up town.
I mean, she acknowledged that's where it was going to be. They just moved it right before it happened to somewhere that takes a while to walk to.
So we jumped up and we ran to the other end of the park.
Oh, come on. What? We missed it? No. I'm so sad. This can't be happening.
All around me are familiar faces.
Do we miss anything?
Oh dear.
Okay.
That's so sad.
rewarded the blackout.
We missed it?
Oh, they just announced.
They said it was at the front of town.
And yeah, when we arrived, the ceremony was over.
Okay, well, you guys want to go? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was our final impression of the park. That was the note we went out on.
Well, I guess that was a fitting end to the night, actually. It's fine. We just
The ceremony probably wasn't interesting, but I'm mad on principle. Part 14, the characters. Nearly all of the gameplay that can happen in Evermore, arguably the park's main attraction, hinges on its cast of characters. Every character in the park is an original creation for the storyline of Evermore. Guests are allowed to come in costume, so park character employees are distinguished by their glowing green Evermore crests. So let's go over a few that I encountered. The first character we met was named Gambling Goblin. You can tell he's a goblin because he has some plastic ears on. I guess that's what goblins look like.
What manner of creature are you?
I'm a creature out to make my fortune.
Oh,
Gambling Goblin's the name.
I knew it.
I need to think of something different.
your name?
Barry!
Oh no.
Gambling Goblin is like pretty naked and barefoot, and I guess his thing is that he wants to gamble for clothes. So he was like, make me a bet for my pants. But he didn't appear to have any dice or cards or anything with which we could gamble. And also, I didn't want his pants. The only
What if someone had said yes? And they gambled and he lost his pants? Because the whole thing of improv is you're supposed to yes and. Like, also, this is a very unfortunate screen to pause. I apologize. But, like, what if someone had gone along with that? Would he have just been like, oh, do you have dice or cards? No? Okay, then. And then it just would have been awkward as everybody shuffled off in their own directions. Or he would have had to go along with it, possibly lose his pants and what, somehow try to get out of that? Or surrender his pants? What was the plan here? Nobody had a plan for anything! Ah! Also, the Nintendo Direct is starting, so I should probably go start stalking socials to see what's going on. See if any good releases that interest me are happening.
only garment he was wearing.
Your shoes for my pants.
That's okay. I'm good with what I've got.
You sure?
Yeah.
So that was a non-starter. Out at the ruins, we saw that one wizard character, the only wizard, who seems to have cool story details to share. But every time we went by, there was a crowd of guests around trying to talk to him. And there's no cap on how long guests interact with a given character. And it seems like a lot of the park regulars will just sit and chat with a character for like a half hour at a stretch. So we hovered at a middle distance for a little bit and then gave up. There was this baby dragon puppet. That was probably my favorite single thing I saw at the park.
Can I touch him?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is he friendly? He's not gonna bite me.
He's very friendly.
Okay.
He's a little baby.
Oh, he is friendly. It's okay, dragon. Wow.
He is a little shy.
How did you catch him?
So he actually has a broken wing, and I found him in the woods, and I've been nursing him back to health till he can fly again.
Do they have any natural predators that could have gotten him while he was on the ground?
I suspect it was a bigger dragon, unfortunately. Just natural predators.
He looks so sad about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad.
Okay.
You can tell this latex dragon puppet has been made in-house and it has such a cute expression. We spoke a little bit with this character, but all the kids wanted to see her dragon puppet, so we didn't want to monopolize her. There are fairy characters, but they don't have wings. They just wear clothes made of leaves and flowers and stuff. Mythos' whole thing is supposed to be like about fairies, so in my opinion, the fairies should definitely have wings. Like, that's what kids are expecting. why let them down? They had a mermaid in an armchair, so A+ for the mermaid, I guess. I feel like that's exactly what a little girl wanting to meet a mermaid would be looking for. They need to channel more of that energy for the fairies.
Are you stuck?
I'm stuck. The pirate captain brought me here with her.
She kidnapped you?
No, that came on my own treadmill.
Oh, okay, good. All right, just making sure.
It's not a contest, but my favorite character I saw was probably the Pirate Queen. She just seemed the most prepared to single-handedly entertain a crowd. My impression of all of these performers is that they were given very little instruction and just sort of thrown to the wolves, and she was really rising to the challenge. She also knew how to play the bagpipes. I don't know much about bagpipes, but my impression is that that's a very difficult skill. In general, all of the actors were solid, no complaints there. They're all doing accents, and some of them sound very convincing. It's not even all the same generic accent, like they're doing different regional dialects. I think that's cool. From footage I saw online, it looks like the park used to have much more complex characters involving suits and prosthetics. They used to have a frost giant, a satyr. The Fae King at Halloween was an animatronic with a speaker box. This little creature carrying a big bundle of pumpkins. I was really hoping to meet this guy in particular. It looks like there's a latex goblin puppet that sometimes sits on a porch and weeps. These vampire things in the crypt. Even the dwarves seem to usually have prosthetic noses to give them a more fantastical appearance. And let's not forget our fallen prince, Tip Top, in the arms of the angels. Honestly, if I'd even just seen Tip Top, that would have made the trip for me. But no, when we went, we saw absolutely none of the above. Nobody in a more elaborate suit, but also none of those like smaller partial face prosthetics. We saw the dwarves, but they don't have prosthetics anymore, so now they just look like normal guys wearing vaguely boho fashion. They also don't play music covers anymore, for some reason. One of them sits at the out-of-tune piano and plays jazz scales, but it's not like a performance anymore. From what I can tell, Evermore was conceptualized as having two different play modes, both utilizing the characters. The more gamified play mode was going to them to ask for quests, as we've covered in the gameplay section. But the more advanced level of play, and probably the more interesting one, was essentially a LARP mode. If you haven't heard of it, LARP is live-action roleplay. It's kind of a hobbyist activity. Basically, people like play pretend in costume, and then sometimes they'll weave in elements of games like Dungeons and Dragons. Evermore did in fact have an ever-evolving story, so if one looked closely, they could see that individual characters had their own arcs and storylines, which guests could influence. Ominous air quotes. Since the park was open for such limited hours and limited days every week, most characters would just be portrayed by a single consistent actor every time they appeared. I think the only exceptions for this would be the characters that were in full face prosthetics. So this meant that if you visited more than once, a character you met last time would remember your conversations from the time before. You could develop a relationship with them. Characters had their own motives, personal growth, history with other characters. Honestly, from a planning perspective, I find this pretty strange. If there was any intent as a company to have control over characters and broad story choices, I'd imagine it would make more sense to have multiple actors portraying the same character, and just have the principal characters be recognizable by the clothes that they're wearing. After all, humans can get sick, or they can do a bad job. They can quit or get fired. And if I wanted to have a tight story where every twist and turn matters and which can be easily communicated to guests, I'd probably want to have a lot of control over what's happening. It's extremely unclear to me how much accountability the actors had regarding the story choices they made. Because as an outside observer, it certainly seems as though they just hired a squad of improv performers and turned them loose in the park.
It was a small blue book with a blue cover, and it was in between a red and a green large book, and to the left of those was another book in brown.
All right. Thank you very much.
I then headed off to Drakenhaven to look for my next message. I looked over every molecule in that building and could not find anything even remotely like what he was describing. I spent what felt like the whole night there and eventually gave in and even asked the director of show design for help so that I didn't end up touching anything I wasn't supposed to. And he had no idea what Fergus could have meant. Exasperated, I returned to Fergus, who basically just cracked up laughing. Apparently, he was just messing with me.
I see Evermore sometimes compared to a video game, so sure, let's use that for a comparison. If you're playing a video game, the dialogue of every character you interact with has all been scripted out by an omniscient writer. So as a player, you know if you engage with them, you'll likely be given hints or deeper insights into the game's story, and not just random small talk made up by an improv performer on the spot. But yeah, while at Evermore, I had the sense that even if I spoke at length with every performer in the park, I'd only ever glean details about each particular character.
There was a plague of werewolves
that came through my small town.
Yeah.
And they've killed all of my family.
None of it in service of any greater story until perhaps a random day when the management decides that the story is going to progress. And yes, I can see through the footage on the YouTube channel Evermore Fans that characters used to do more dramatic tableau for the benefit of guests. It's unclear to me whether this aspect of the game has been phased out, or whether I just had the misfortune of visiting on a day when nothing happened. It's anyone's guess. But watching the old clips, I can see how, beyond the issue of missing the action, there's something else kind of inherently broken about the performances here. I'm going to use this scene as an example. This video is titled, Dervil Apologizes to Cecily for Killing Maxwell Morgan, her fiance. Ooh, very dramatic. So this man
The
Dervil
drama.
goes up to Cecily and starts apologizing.
I came to speak with you. To address things.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to ask you.
I need you to understand that what happened, I didn't think about the possible consequences of who it might have affected.
You know, he just keeps apologizing.
I'm sorry that I'm sincerely sorry that
Really just repeating himself. I assume for the benefit of any guests who are joining us just now.
I understand if you cannot forgive me, but I need you to know that I take full responsibility of my actions.
Cecily tells him that she's very upset about that whole business where he killed her fiance, Maxwell Morgan.
In case you forgot.
I'm having a very hard time.
Maxwell Morgan,
Something which,
her
in
fiance,
my opinion, should go
who he
without
killed,
saying, but
her
she does
fiance.
explain this to him. She keeps
Maxwell
explaining
Morgan.
basic concepts like how she loved Maxwell and thus was upset by his murder.
Had I known, probably would have made a different choice.
How could you not know I was engaged to him?
So, yeah, you might have noticed that the Evermore format is placing some strange constraints on the actors' performances. Cecily can't end the conversation and angrily storm away because the whole scene has to be audible to guests who have clustered in a 10-foot radius around the scene. And, of course, this conversation can't be concise or organic. It has to be dragged out and belabored because it's a performance for a non-captive audience. Its pacing and dialogue has to compensate for the fact that some guests might walk up mid-conversation, and also the fact that some guests might not know either of these characters because this is their first week visiting, so they need the dialogue to expose everything that's happened previously that is relevant. So we end up with a lot of scenes that are lethargic, overly repetitive, and just feel very unnatural. A scene like this could easily be more dramatic if you put it on a stage, but obviously we don't want them on a stage. It's an interactive theme park. So my suggestion is to just put mic packs on the actors. The character performer or like a sound guy can have a switch to flip to turn them on for at least like the planned tableau. If the performer can be certain that everyone in the immediate area will hear their dialogue, they won't have to belabor every point again and again to make sure that they're heard and picked up on by the audience, so scenes can be more concise. And most importantly, the actors will now have the freedom to move about the space, because right now they can't like turn their backs or their voice will be thrown in the wrong direction. They can't leave the area. Guests won't have to cluster tightly around them to try to record what they're saying on their phones. I need to pin this to my head because it's slipping like crazy. Okay, stay. Oh, my next concern with Evermore's use of characters is not related to gameplay. There's another reason I think a business is putting itself in a precarious position when it decides to make human beings its central attraction. I wonder if when I said that you could develop relationships with the characters, you had any little alarm bells going off in your head. There's so much discourse on the internet these days about parasocial relationships, usually specifically in the context of online creators and influencers who audiences feel they have a more intimate connection to. So I already said that Evermore presents us with essentially a corporate version of a LARP. And if you do even a cursory Google search for LARP rules and logistics, you'll find a million write-ups and think pieces about the community-wide standards for consent and boundaries. Rules about what kind of interactions are off the table, or at least which kinds need to be negotiated between players out of character before they happen. There are generally accepted standards of nonverbal signals players can use to tap out of a scene. Also, hobbyist LARP doesn't suffer from quite the same weird power dynamics you have going on in a corporate experience. I guess you could say that the event organizers have power in that they're allowed to enforce the rules, and some players probably have more social capital, so maybe there are like cliques and politics in that respect, but you don't have the dynamic of service workers and clients. Traditional LARPs also come with a guarantee that everyone is playing a character in the bounds of the game. I would imagine since nobody is acting as themselves, that would help put up a little bit of a barrier to discourage parasocial bonds. Players also often have opportunities to meet the other players out of character, before the games or after, to remind them that they are not those characters. I would like to clarify that I have never LARPed in my life. These are just general problems that immediately occurred to me when I thought about the idea of a LARP theme park, so I googled around a little bit. Didn't take that long. I'd like to think I would have done even more research into this if I was running a theme park full of employees whose job it is to LARP. So anyway, in Evermore, the dynamic goes like this. Most players will be guests, who may play as characters, or themselves, or any gray area in between. Meanwhile, other players, in the minority, are paid employees expected to facilitate the guests' experiences and stay in character at all times. This means that while interacting in character, they are also providing customer service, and necessarily must be more patient, more obliging, more tolerant of anything guests throw at them. And we see this issue in many professions, not just the ones where you're dressed as elf maidens. The most obvious example is probably the waitstaff at restaurants, who are expected to banter and be personable with customers in exchange for high tips. But at Evermore, the potential intimacy of all of these interactions is turned all the way up. I've actually heard multiple accounts from Evermore fans about how they were depressed and contemplating self-harm and went into the park and told this to the character performers. And then they had hours-long conversations wherein they were comforted by these performers who were, simultaneously pretending to be a wizard who hands out quests. I don't want to diminish the positive impact these moments had for these guests, but I have to ask, is this an appropriate position to put these character performers in? Are situations like this covered in wizard actor training? And that's saying nothing of the parasocial relationships these guests might form with these characters. I mean, think about it. Guests see the same character performers, always playing the same character every time they go. The characters remember them on repeat visits. They are free to converse with them for hours at a stretch. Places like Disneyland have character hosts, which are basically like the bouncer for Mickey Mouse. They help form a line, but they also make sure the performers are comfortable through a series of signals and make sure that the line keeps moving at a reasonable pace. Evermore doesn't seem to have a position like this. Guests can visit and share intimate details about their real lives with these characters, and then see the characters put in a lot of highly emotional, in-story situations. They might comfort the character as the actor pretends to cry about a goblin that's been stepped on by a dragon or something. I don't know. They can learn all about the character's fake life and feel like they're bonding. Most of the actors don't have prosthetics or even wigs and would be fully recognizable out of character. And with all this in mind, it's important to remember that Evermore Park is physically located in a very small suburban city, and presumably these actors are not commuting far to work there. It's very possible that a guest could run into any of these actors outside of work. It's also worth noting that, from what I've heard from former employees and what I've seen with my own eyeballs, Evermore essentially does not have a backstage. At bigger theme parks like Disneyland, the entire park is encircled by corridors and populated backstage areas. Any employee feeling threatened could disappear through one of the many employee-only doors and either take a break or seek help. At Evermore, the best they could do would be to sprint off into the empty field neighboring the park like they're in Jeepers Creepers or something. Or maybe they could retreat into the changing room, which is apparently located in one of the incomplete buildings on the east side of the park. And that's assuming a guest can't successfully just follow you inside into this remote, empty building in a dark corner of the park. It honestly gives me goosebumps to even contemplate this after physically being in the park, because it definitely seemed like there were no fail-safes. It gets so dark at night, most of the buildings are unpopulated, but characters go off on their own, and the park isn't that crowded. It would be very easy to corner someone where no one could see. The park has some security staff, but not enough that their presence is felt throughout the park. They're mostly just young guys clustered around the front entrance gate, and allegedly the performers have no way to signal these security officers from afar if they actually need them. And even ignoring any potential physical dangers, what might the emotional impact be of forming a parasocial relationship with a guest? or a guest forming one with you? What recourse do actors have when they notice this is becoming a problem, or when a guest makes them uncomfortable? Especially if said guest is acting a little too familiar but is not technically in violation of any laws or park rules. I would love to know if any of Evermore's team touched on any of these issues in the planning process. Did it occur to anyone at all? Were any words exchanged about it at any point? And while I'm on the subject of the mental health and boundaries of the performers, I should mention that Evermore has some very dramatic storylines. You might not have been picturing that, because it's not like you go to Disneyland and see the Mad Hatter weeping next to the teacups. So trust me, Evermore is on another level. The Evermore characters cry all the time. So now I'd like to highlight my next example, probably my favorite clip of Evermore gameplay I've ever come across. This clip intrigues me. It haunts me. This video is titled Conflict at the Ruins. Don't worry, you don't need any context for this clip, or rather, you really do need context for it, but you don't have it, and neither do I. Here we get a character tableau wherein a character named Wen Weaver is very upset.
When worse comes to worse, and I am at my limit, and I have nothing left to give, and I have no more I don't even have gold left, Kirsten. There's nothing left.
We don't know exactly why, but I gather it has something to do with this one guest, Kirsten, a podcaster and frequent visitor to the park, who appears in a lot of the footage I've seen. We can tell this by the way that Wen Weaver tries to prompt Kirsten to give input into the scene.
And how many times, Kirsten? So, Kirsten, I am done, Kirsten. So, Kirsten, what do you want me to do right now? This is on you. Tell everyone what I should do.
It reminds me of those old school computer games where they would have like an actual actor, but they would keep looping the footage. So they'd turn to the screen and be like, oh, what should we do? And then after a while, they'd just, again, be like, oh, what should we do?
I am asking you!
What they want.
I don't care.
Neither do I!
The description disclaims that yelling at performers like this is forbidden, but that Kirsten has a special relationship with the performers, and so this was okay in this circumstance. But I don't really know how a random guest observing would pick up on that nuance. So there's a lot to unpack here. There's Wen Weaver crying, saying she's a little broken toy.
I have done exactly what you asked, you selfish child. All you see is that I hurt your toy. Your broken toy in a toy box. Listen to me! Your favorite toy in a toy box was broken.
There's this cluster of trees right behind her that nobody's bothered to put in the ground yet, just sitting there in plastic tubs. There's this guy kneeling on the ground and kissing her hand for most of the scene. There's the guest out of frame, half-heartedly trying to hype her up like he's at a little league game.
This town tried to kill me. This town.
Not all of us. That's right, Wen. We love you.
Yes, we do.
Yep. There's, of course, this part.
Tell me what you want. This? Do you want me to stay with this man? Do you want me to go to bed with him?
I've seen some other clips of this character, Wen Weaver, and I think she's such a great example for this part of the video, because let me tell you, Wen Weaver had a rough time of it.
I'm friends with them. The fairies! They know me!
Every single time you see this character, she is stage crying her heart out. Yelling, crying, getting burned at the stake. And I have to wonder, what is the toll this takes on performers?
Our first season, we were doing, some of us are doing 8 to almost 10-hour sessions, 5 days a week. And so you're looking at like 40 to 50 hours of character.
It seems that most, if not all, of the actors are contract workers, so none that I spoke with had any health benefits through the job with which they could seek mental health care. Again, I would love to know if Evermore keeps an on-staff counselor available for employees for work-related concerns, or preemptively covers any of these issues in training. Maybe they do. That would be great. One can only imagine. But next, let's unpack the other issue of conflict at the ruins. I don't even think this level of theatrics is to the benefit of the guests. I mean, clearly the super fans are into it, and they're like recording it and uploading it to YouTube, but those are park regulars, and that represents a very small population. Remember, if this park is to survive, it needs the patronage of Braden, local third grader. And I don't know how this scene is going to play to Braden, his mom, and the rest of his Cub Scout troop when they come around looking for the dragon puppet.
Do you want me to go to bed with him?
If anything, they'll probably feel uncomfortable and leave the area. It's that classic Evermore dilemma. How do you appeal to hardcore fans and the average day guest? I don't think those two goals have to be in conflict with each other, but here they are. They are in conflict. Conflict at the ruins.
I am done doing what I wish because everyone calls me a hair trigger fire witch.
My last concern also happens to be Wen Weaver adjacent. A handful of characters, including Wen Weaver, the hair trigger fire witch, use little pyrotechnic effects to represent their magic. They look extremely cool.
My turn.
Especially in a world where characters mostly just speak to each other in long paragraphs, this effect is striking and magical. It really wakes up the crowd. Wen Weaver's actress said in this podcast interview that she did not have a license, but that all of Wen Weaver's pyrotechnic effects were considered theatrical effects. So even though it looks alarming to see characters hurling fire right at each other's faces, it's all legally above board. My concern is with a specific anecdote she shares.
I set myself on fire with it twice. Because I had incorrectly loaded it, and I went to crouch down and talk to a little boy, maybe 6-7 years old, and I put the hand cannon or the flash gun into my pouch, and it auto ignited the flash paper that was in that pocket because I put it in the wrong pocket. You never store ignition with fuel.
Oh no.
They caught my pouch on fire. I had too much fuel in there, and the whole thing just lit the front of my dress, lit my hair, hit my sleeve, and thankfully I had big draping sleeves as Wen Weaver, and nobody was injured. It was when my sleeves came up, the whole fire went out. It was quick, less than a second. Thankfully, nobody was near me, so nobody, as I said, no one was injured in this.
Now, I'm not trying to imply any wrongdoing on the part of the actress. I just keep using her as my example because there's a lot of available coverage of her, probably because she was a fan favorite, and because I think the name Wen Weaver is fun to say. But as she acknowledges in the interview, any kind of pyrotechnic effect is going to carry an inherent risk of human error. If you do this effect enough times, this kind of accident almost sounds inevitable. But that's the reason your actors shouldn't be carrying the components of the pyrotechnic effects when they're doing up-close interactions with guests. Any story moments utilizing these fireballs must presumably be prearranged, and if they are, surely the park has some ability to have a performer step out of sight of the guests, be handed pyro stuff by a stagehand, and then go out to resume the confrontation. Yes, it's more spontaneous to have characters randomly hurling fire at any point throughout the day, but I think maybe spontaneity might be bad when spontaneity is fire and people lighting on fire. If I'm in the park with Brayden, my 3rd grade son, and I'm getting a picture of him with the mermaid, I want to feel certain that the mermaid is not going to spontaneously combust while she's hugging him. I guess Utah is apparently the Wild West, and this is a thing you can just do there, as long as your project is considered theater. But surely even Utahns are within their right to file lawsuits if their children are immolated by a warlock. So Evermore might want to re-examine their safety protocols. For their own good. Just re-examine a lot of things, Evermore. Sit down and have a think about mental health, physical health, safety, training, story, guidelines. I guess I'm just naming everything now. Part 15, the food. Long ago, in a distant kingdom. No, I'm just kidding. Evermore has some food, and I sampled it. This part's gonna be brief because when I started this, I thought this video was gonna be like a chill travelogue that was like 30 minutes long, and it didn't turn out to be that. It grew beyond what I expected, so I won't spend long on the food. So Evermore Park has an affiliated restaurant called Vander's Keep, which opened in October of 2020. It's attached to the park by a back hallway and themed to match it with the vibe of like a medieval inn and tavern. The restaurant is open days the park is not, so I decided to go there on my first day in town. I made a reservation, which turned out to be extremely stupid because we arrived to find a cavernously empty restaurant. The decor inside Vander's Keep is genuinely extremely cool.
Ooh, look at this. It's like an old boiler, and they put flickering lights in it like it's on. That's cute.
They have custom prop weapons on the walls, maps of the different realms. The bar is the coolest looking fixture in the whole building. It's loaded with details, and they've got an assortment of projection mapping effects over it to give it the impression of magic. Things that appear to be flames coming out of bottles or fairies floating between objects. You kind of had to look for a while to catch it. It seems like it cycles through gradually enough that if you were sitting there for a while, every time you glanced over, you might see something new. There's a little stage where musicians could theoretically perform. I haven't seen any indication that they actually have. There's one sitting area which is arranged like a little lounge for people to chat over drinks.
Do you think that's Vander? That must be Vander. Oh my god. This is great.
I do love the paintings.
Me too.
Also, this side room, which is clearly set up for games of darts, but is currently being used for storage.
What's in here? Is it like a little themed alcove? Oh, no.
Down the back hallway, which leads to the park, they have Tip Top's gruesome disembodied head.
Literally his head. I kind of want to touch it. I want to feel if it's like latex. Is that bad? It's literally the costume. Oh my gosh. It's literally like that is his actual head. That's so upsetting. It's real gross inside.
And also a lot of great concept art and even some scale models of fixtures for the park.
Whoa! Whoa! Do you think that exists? I hope so. Whoa, do you think that creature... Whoa!
Since we went to this restaurant before we ever got to go to Evermore, we were like very dazzled by the concept art, and we kept being like, these things must be in the park, because if not, it would be kind of embarrassing to show the much cooler concept art when your park didn't turn out that good.
That's why I'm like, it's blowing my mind.
That's why I'm thinking like maybe we will see these things in there.
And yeah, we all know how that turned out. I keep forgetting that beards don't go over your nose. So that's my challenge today. The only real drawback of the interior is that this tall cathedral ceiling makes for very echoey acoustics, which was okay because like I said, we were the only people in the restaurant. However, we were keenly aware that like everybody back of house could definitely hear everything we were saying the whole time. But then on another night, we went back to the restaurant and it was like at a little under half capacity. And even at that level of crowding, it was extremely noisy with sound bouncing around everywhere.
Never know if this is your ranking, you said.
Oh, right. The evening vibe is all torch lit, which I love, and I think it should feel more intimate, but it's hard to do that when it's echoing like a high school cafeteria, especially when it's billed as fine dining. Food-wise, everything was just okay. It was nice that the menu had some more inventive offerings, but the execution was sort of questionable. Like a lot of it was under-seasoned, under-salted. Even the poutine was under-salted, and in my opinion, it should be impossible to under-salt a combo of fries, gravy, and cheese.
It's just in one of those cases of like things happening in the wrong order.
I tried to order the soup on the menu because I love soup, and they said that they hadn't made the soup that day because nobody was ordering it. And can I just point out that if I'm the only customer and I order soup, then technically everybody is ordering soup, but whatever. Kate and I both ordered items from the stackers category, which we thought meant sandwiches. Mine arrived and was a sandwich. Hers arrived and was some kind of deconstructed pile covered in a mystery sauce.
Careful, it's like almost in my food. Okay.
What's going on under it?
Do we still have the menu or no?
Bread.
But
It's just
not
in like
sandwich.
It's just in like.
But it feels rude if she comes back to be like, what is...
Yeah, but what did I call it on the menu? Like a stacker?
Yes,
okay.
it did.
So maybe that is what it is.
So we continue to not know what they mean by stackers. Neither of us liked ours very much. Mine was super sweet. I think they just dumped a lot of vinaigrette on it or something. They were each like $14 and neither came with any sides. I'm not trying to go in too hard on the food because it wasn't awful or anything. It just wasn't good either. The quality and the ambiance won't really live up to the expectations of more discerning foodies, but I think the high prices are going to scare away younger people who might have liked the theme. And speaking of alienating customers, I didn't realize until I got home, but the head chef actually gave this interview wherein he said that when customers request alterations to their meals, he becomes angry and wants to fight them.
And we can modify some dishes to a certain extent to accommodate some of those dietary needs. As a chef, though, I have to say, and she's nudging me because I'm going to make a public announcement to patrons, right? Don't alter it. It's a slap in the face to alter a chef's menu.
Try it once.
Yeah, the patron I hate the most is the one that comes in and says,
Oh, I have strong feelings about this. Okay, it's tangent time. Here we fucking go. How fucking dare you get so fixated on your goddamn menu and food item and not actually take into account why you're making the fucking food in the first place, which is the customer. You don't know their lives. They could have dietary restrictions, allergies. You insist that, oh, try it once as it is. But like, what if it kills them? What if it causes them literal bodily harm? I'm allergic to onions. Technically, it's more of an intolerance, so I'm not gonna be like hospitalized or need an EpiPen or anything. But if you insist on me trying some dish with onions in it, despite me not wanting it to have onions, I will eat it and then have gastrointestinal distress. And then I'm gonna think less of you and your food and your establishment. And I'm never gonna wanna go back there, so fuck you! Anyway.
Oh, I'd like this, but not that. And can you substitute this and give me that? I might come out with fine.
So my hot take is that you can't be a commercial chef in a theme park restaurant if you're going to take things this personally. I actually found a Facebook post from a customer who said that he wanted to order more, but he didn't want to eat anything cooked in alcohol. He saw the same interview I did, and it scared him away from asking, so he just didn't order the food. I didn't request any alterations to my meal because I didn't want any, but had I known of this in advance, I would have done it just to see what happened. Tell the chef that I want a Kraft single draped across my grilled Atlantic salmon like a blanket. And if he doesn't like it, he can meet me in the parking lot. Also, I have to say, we ended up returning to Vander's Keep on our first night in the park because we were thirsty and wanted to sit in the air conditioning because the rest of the park isn't air conditioned. We literally just wanted drinks and appetizers. We waited 40 minutes for a table, and then we put in our order, and then we waited another hour and a half for our drinks. And then another half hour for our baked potatoes because they don't really have like appetizers. We had to just get baked potatoes. So it was like a 3-hour experience and it wasn't even a full meal. I mentioned that one of the coolest visual features is that big themed bar. Well, in general, the drinks are the real star of Vander's Keep. Many of them are the bartender's own creation. He's dressed in character. He hacks ice cubes off a big block of ice like a Viking. He's chipping the ice.
Oh, it's him. He has a little cleaver.
He kept coming to our table to ask how we liked our drinks and is clearly very passionate about what he does. Oh, also I should add that one of these drinks is named after the CEO. One of the ones on this page. Can you guess which one? The bar doesn't have separate seating though, which sucks, hence our 40-minute wait for a table just to get drinks. And again, it wasn't even crowded, it was like half full. So since the park is open for only a few hours a night, I can't recommend going here because you're gonna use all your time. So if we're not going there, let's look at the food in the park. The park has a lot of theoretical food locations. If my use of the word theoretical feels ominous, that's good. It should. When you first enter, there's a food counter selling beverages and generic carnival food options like hot dogs and nachos. This location is called Barter's Post West. There is a Barter's Post East across the courtyard. Apparently they used to offer different things, but only West was open when we went, and I didn't want any of that food, so I just got a bottled water. There's this little place near the Hobbit House. According to the old park map, it appears to be called Hex Trove.
Let's investigate. Oh, it's snacks. Ew.
They had cold drinks, including smoothies and some iced coffee, but no food. The Slanting Shanty and their bread bowls seem to be closed indefinitely because of that time they caught fire, allegedly. Same for the Hunter's Hovel, which also sold food for a time. I actually found this old Facebook comment from Evermore detailing some of the food options they don't have anymore, and so now I'm showing it to you because I don't know, I think stupid stuff like that is interesting. Now, maybe you'll recall that the Evermore website only listed 4 attractions: Open Gates, Train, Copper Confection, Kettle Cafe. So 2 of those are eateries. Let's revisit the description of Copper Confection. Enjoy our European-styled confectionery featuring amazing ice cream, soft and hard, sodas, smoothies, juices, flavored hot chocolates and coffees, fresh donuts, chocolates, taffy, cotton candy, flavored popcorn, and assortment of candies. When we went in, they had bottled water, pre-bagged cotton candy, and mass-produced ice cream bars like Choco Tacos. That's it.
You guys sell water?
Not in this one.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait, I take that back. On day 1, they did not have the bottled water yet. They didn't get that till day 2. There appeared to be an upstairs, but it was closed to guests the whole time we were there. According to employees I spoke with, it might just be office space, so I don't know if it's ever going to open. Okay, now that other restaurant, the Kettle Cafe. Let's revisit that description. If you are looking for more than concessions and want to explore some unique food and beverage options, come visit the Kettle Cafe. The Kettle Cafe was closed for our entire visit. The final Evermore food service location is the Crooked Lantern Tavern. The tavern only serves bottled water and Virgil's soda. Yeah, I was pretty dumbfounded that even though they have a tavern, they don't actually sell alcohol anywhere in the park. My impression is that, unlike Vander's Keep, the park does not have a liquor license. But, in my opinion, they need to get on that, you know? Alcohol is such a moneymaker for theme parks, and I know it's in Utah, but there are still some people that drink in Utah. And if we're being honest, the guests' impressions of the park might be enhanced a little if they have a couple drinks.
It is really nice. Whoa! Whoa!
So anyway, if you are going to Evermore, my recommendation is to eat first and not plan to buy any food in the park. And that's bad that I'm recommending that, because that means Evermore is not making money on food sales. When I say that Evermore needs better food options, I'm saying it for their own good. A lot of theme parks get free advertising by offering gimmicky and aesthetically appealing foods, which people then post to Instagram and TikTok. While I was in Pleasant Grove, I went to this highly recommended chocolate shop called the Truffle Cottage. This place makes in-house all these visually interesting chocolates, and they already lean heavily on geek themes. I was chatting with them, and they said that most of their business comes from custom bulk orders for corporate events and traveling to Comic Cons. Anyway, their treats could have gone right in that empty display case at the Copper Confection. One of the employees at the Truffle Cottage actually told me that at one point they had been in talks with Evermore about a collaboration. But before anything came of it, whoever they were talking to from PR got laid off or quit or something, and they never heard anything anymore. So I just feel like this is another illustration of how the ball is being dropped, and how there's a high employee turnover rate. But don't worry, we'll get to that. Part 16, the merch. The first building you pass on the way in is the Kettle Cafe. I already mentioned that this is a restaurant, but it's also the main gift shop. On day one of my trip, the Kettle Cafe was closed.
Oh, look at this stained glass. Wait, so what is this building? Can we go inside of it?
Oh, Copper Confection had about 8 merch items and was the only open gift shop in the park. Only 5 of those items were bespoke Evermore Park merch. A keychain, a commemorative token, a pin, some aprons which looked handmade with iron-on designs, and some daggers. Oh, also DVDs of Unicorn City, a terrible film from Deep Studios about LARPing.
Maybe we need to buy this. Can your laptop play Blu-rays?
I have a Blu-ray player at my house.
Maybe we should watch Unicorn City. Do you think it's bad? If only it's bad.
No.
You might have noticed that even in this teensy little shop, most of the shelf space was empty. When I had walked past the Kettle Cafe, I had seen a couple t-shirts in the window display and a sign advertising art prints. Even before I went to the park, I was pretty certain that I was going to buy an Evermore t-shirt and a hat, so I could wear them in this video. I mean, remember the Taylor Swift lawsuit? I knew they had merch because the merchandise was specifically featured as one of the primary ways in which Swift was hurting them, because she was selling t-shirts that said Evermore, which Evermore was also doing. But the Kettle Cafe was closed, and the Copper Confection had little in the way of merch. Now look, I know that I don't need an Evermore t-shirt, but the idea that I couldn't buy one, that this park is struggling to stay open, and that I'm showing up trying to give them money and they won't take it from me, this idea was both fascinating and infuriating to me. So about halfway through day one, I decided that my quest was going to be getting my Evermore t-shirt. A quest of great symbolic import, because it would show me how much Evermore had their act together. I won't bore you with the details, but here's a quick play-by-play. I asked an employee if the gift shop would be opening later. I was told it was open, and I felt stupid, like I had just tried to open the wrong door.
Cool, thank you. I also noticed there's a t-shirt in the window. Where is there like a main gift shop?
Yeah.
Oh, we can go in there?
Very cool.
Oh, where's the entrance?
So it's around here towards the front.
Oh, okay.
So around that corner.
Cool, thank you. Thank you. All right. Nope, it's locked. Maybe there's another door. This is the door, maybe. Yeah.
It's definitely the door we want to, though.
That's the Vander's Keep door, but this could be the entrance.
It is also locked.
It's locked, we can't actually go in. And we don't have maps.
But that employee had thought that it would be open, so that made me think it was just going to open later. Every time I was at the front of the park that day, I would check again, but it never opened.
It's like big. It's big in there. Wait, there's a person inside.
Wait, let's do
that. There was a person walking to this door. Oh, there was a person inside walking to this door, I swear to God. There's a human in there.
But it's lit up inside.
Well, we came in from that, like that. We went to the restaurant from like outside the park.
I swear to God, from the other side.
As we were exiting out of Vander's Keep that night, I complained loudly about how the gift shop had never opened, and then realized the CEO of Evermore Park was right there and had heard me.
Now would be a great time for them to open the gift shop.
I felt a little sheepish, but I thought, hey, maybe he heard me and he will open the gift shop tomorrow. Came back on day 2, the door to the gift shop was wide open. Huzzah!
It's open! Oh no!
Are you kidding me? Never mind. It turned out to only be open to access a power outlet to plug in a little fan. When I looked inside, it appeared that it was empty of its usual fixtures and being used for storage of Christmas decorations. Checked Copper Confection again to see if they had moved more stock into it overnight. Nope. Asked the Vander's Keep employees if I tipped very nicely if they could bring me a t-shirt out of the back because the gift shop was connected to the restaurant. That was a no. I went back to the open door of the gift shop and asked the nearest employee if they could go in and bring a shirt out of a box and I could pay for the shirt at the ticket booth or, I don't know, Venmo them. That was also a no. Ran into the CEO again in the Copper Confection and said that I was looking to buy a t-shirt. I don't know what to tell you. I took this all the way to the top, you guys. Anyway, I'm sure you've noticed that I am not wearing an Evermore t-shirt right now. And now I suppose I never will. What's interesting is, the day after Evermore, we went a half hour away to the Botanical Gardens for fun. This place isn't even medieval themed to my knowledge, and for some reason their gift shop had a ton of public domain princess and wizard and knight stuff for people to buy, stuff for them to wear, little dolls and coloring books. It boggles my mind that Evermore can't even have this level of merchandise in the park. On the big grassy area at the back of the park, there are tents set up for local artisans to sell their goods, kind of like a Renaissance fair. You'll find the usual stuff there, but nothing that feels like a souvenir of the park itself. I'd imagine the vendors pay a flat rate to rent out the space, so the park is making some kind of profit off them, but I don't understand why Evermore doesn't want more directly in on this action. It just comes across as laziness, especially taken into account with everything else. Anyway, I bought the pin and the token and the keychain because that's literally all there was for me to buy. Huzzah! Of every theme park I've ever been to, this one is probably in the direst financial straits. So I was very surprised by how resistant they were to, taking my money. I couldn't buy merch, buying food and drinks was as inconvenient as possible, I couldn't rent out the park for photos. They're leaving money on the table. It's like they don't care. I guess that's the tagline of my review. It's like they don't care. Part 17. Priorities. Evermore seems to trade in this idea that they're an underdog. And certainly, compared to other theme parks, they are. It makes for a decent buffer against criticism because it feels almost cruel to ask more of the park. They don't have Disney money behind them, so of course one has to meter their expectations. But I think that angle is a little disingenuous because an incredible amount of money has gone into the park. Speculated to be tens of millions of dollars, it's just gone to the wrong places. Yes, Evermore's budget is much lower than many other theme parks, but I firmly hold the opinion that they could have stretched the budget farther than they did. From what I've heard in all the interviews and the behind-the-scenes videos, it seems that in the early planning stages, the creative team decided to truly spare no expense. They started investing so much in the park's smaller details at first, without looking at the broader budget and seeing if they could pay for the bigger picture.
We flew to Europe to find pieces that stood out and spoke to us in a way that were meaningful and took you back to a period of time. Medieval items, Victorian items.
There's this stone arch in the garden which looks kind of cool. You walk under it for a second and are like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like this arch. A former member of the creative team that I spoke with alleged that this arch was purchased pre-made and shipped into the park like that, and cost around $50,000. We saw this cheerful looking doll, and then later found out from our Vander's Keep waiter that this doll is named Charlie and is haunted. But he's got a friendly little face. Yeah. Seems nice. He had a couple spooky stories about the doll, and that was fun to hear about. And then I found out that this doll was sought and purchased at a premium because it was haunted. They paid handsomely for that ghost. And I'm just like, why? First rule of business, never pay extra for haunted dolls. The ghost should be included at no additional cost. This LA Times article claims that much of the brick and stone used to build the structures was imported from England. Many of the statues are real and antique. Real antique stained glass windows were shipped in from overseas for the theoretical church that doesn't even have walls. These are all really cool touches, but these are the things you do if you have more money than you know what to do with. These are certainly not expenses you should take on before you're certain you have enough to pay all your contractors for the meager half of the park they've already built.
Just amazing pieces. They're hand carved out of solid marble.
Which I will say is, anytime that I've seen, these real pieces, from my theater background, but also from my Disney background, going up to set pieces, and I'll usually knock on them to see how they were fabricated, what they're made of, fiberglass, whatever. And things get unboxed, and I do the same thing. I go up and I'm knocking on them, like, whoa,
it's real.
like solid
marble.
By the way, each
Amazing.
one of them weighs 6 tons.
Yeah.
So I once went on that Harry Potter bank ride at Universal Studios. In the lobby, they have these massive marble columns. And when you knock on them, you hear that they're hollow. The marble pattern is just a print laid over like wood or plastic. And you know what I think about that? I think, now there's a building that's got all its walls. Priorities. The most ridiculous acquisitions, in my opinion, are the gravestones.
There's tombstones from the 1800s, anywhere from England to northern France. Maybe we'll get some ghosts.
And I ask you, to what end? Evermore literally has an in-house sculptor, and it's not like headstones are that complex. Making them in-house would be faster, much cheaper, and better. Because if you make your own gravestones, you can fill them with jokes, meta references, perhaps even clues on a quest. But instead they're just real gravestones because the CEO wanted ghosts. You know that gnarly pig we saw lying by the railroad track? That's how my friends describe me.
Look at that guy. Oh, whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
Yeah, that guy. Remember that guy? That was an animatronic, which you can see briefly in this fan vlog from opening year and briefly in behind the scenes footage. I haven't been able to find any footage of the pig in use in subsequent years, so it seems like it was only used that one season. Former employees alleged that the components of this animatronic pig were purchased pre-made from an animatronics supplier and that they cost somewhere in the ballpark of $40,000. Supposedly it suffered frequent technical difficulties, so they just gave up on it and threw it out in a field. But our most concrete insight into the park's expenditures actually comes from the Taylor Swift legal drama. In Swift's suit against the park, she discloses that BMI had actually been trying to contact Evermore Park for some time about the unauthorized use of their artist's music. The first of these letters was sent as early as August 2019 and actually attached a draft music license agreement. At that time, Evermore could have simply signed the agreement and paid BMI approximately $1,700 and been legally in the clear to continue using the music. And apparently they just didn't bother. And through it all, BMI just kind of ignored it and kept sending passive-aggressive letters until the point at which Evermore decided to sue Taylor Swift. And we all know how that worked out. Next, let's look at Evermore's lawsuit against Swift. In order to make a compelling case for their claim to the Evermore copyright, the management enumerated various amounts that had been paid into developing the brand. In section 28 of Evermore's legal letter to Taylor Swift, they say that they spent $300,000 on the evermore.com domain. Genuinely, who was camping on the URL that it cost that much? And was that a worthwhile investment? Also, I didn't actually print out the lawsuits. I just thought this would be more dramatic, so I'll put the papers back now. It all just feels like such a late 90s sensibility, like this idea that when people look for something on the computer, they type in www.nameofquery.com into the address bar. It's a very AOL keyword understanding of internet use, and it doesn't really reflect how people find things online anymore. I can see that if you type evermorepark.com, it redirects to evermore.com, suggesting that they bought that domain too. So why not just use evermorepark.com? I highly doubt that one was also $300,000, and your website would have been no harder to find. They go on to say that they've spent $406,835 on advertising and promoting the park, and then to note that $228,587 were spent in direct labor costs for advertising, which I think is meant to be a separate number. And I have to wonder, in what way? The only evidence I've personally seen of any effort at advertising are a few convention appearances, but those account for all of it. They've barely done any influencer marketing. Like, there are a handful of really big theme park vlog channels, and I didn't see any of them visit, but I'm sure if they were offered a free trip, they all would have gone. Nerdist and BuzzFeed went there and possibly got free admission and brought a crew of 3 to 4 people each, but even if Evermore was covering room and board, that's only like 8 people total, so it's not like that's a six-figure expense. I suppose it's possible that these videos were both paid promotions and that was an extra hidden expense, but neither BuzzFeed nor Nerdist indicated that this was paid promotion, and YouTubers never lie about stuff like that, so that can't be the case. The creative team also claimed in early interviews that the park has the infrastructure to be an extremely high-tech, smart park with 1 million feet of fiber buried under the foundation. And if you think that's impressive, just think how much more cable and wire is lying around on the surface. Okay, no, but seriously, that's good that they tried to build this stuff in, in, but I've seen no indication of them using it for anything. This was probably the lowest tech park I've ever been to. I think the only technology I encountered were those little scanners they used to take our tickets at the front gate, and you'll recall that that didn't work. In one interview, Brett Schneider gave examples of how this fiber would be helping enhance the park, like synchronized lighting programs. I imagine it would be cool if they could make lights in a certain area surge or flicker in response to a story beat, like a sinister spell. But the lights I saw were like, they came on at sundown, I guess. They appear to all be on a timer, and that's the extent of it. Okay, finally, this doesn't speak to financial priorities, but more to just priorities in general. When we entered the park on our second day, we made our way to the back where the Hobbit House was. The Hobbit House is one of the few themed buildings you can enter and has pretty iconic architecture from the outside. And on this day, there was just an SUV parked right in front of it.
Why is there an SUV in the fantasy realm?
500 years ago.
And then I looked over and realized that the CEO was right there. It was his car.
Does he know it's open? All right, well.
It was unclear what it was there for, like he wasn't actively loading or unloading from what we saw. He had a few employees in the Grid t-shirts with him, but he was just kind of aimlessly directing them to move sawhorses around.
Why didn't they do that like an hour ago? Well, the day can only start so early.
If someone had hopped into the SUV and driven it 20 feet to the east, they could have put it on the other side of the sawhorses, and thus outside the bounds of the completed park. Certainly still visible, but at least not smack in the middle of a sight line. But no, the place to park it was right in front of the Hobbit House. And this was like 10 minutes after opening, when first-time visitors would have been getting their first impressions of the park. As you can see from my footage, my friends and I lingered and visibly noticed this car, remarked on the car to each other, filmed the car. But when we rode the train an hour later, the car was still there.
They just don't care. They're like, well, that's part of the park.
So I have to ask, what are your priorities? Why should an SUV ever be on stage during operating hours, barring a medical emergency? I understand that when we first saw it, the park had just opened. I thought maybe they were delivering supplies to the coffee stand and time got away from them, but the fact that the car was left there for at least an hour shows a total lack of consideration. When you're trying to build an immersive environment, every little detail matters, and details can be really expensive. But not parking a car in front of the Hobbit House, that's free. Part 18, the Everfolk. So, one common thread in my research was that Evermore employees seemed extremely dissatisfied. I'm sure part of that could have something to do with that time the CEO abruptly fired most of them, but it seems to run deeper than that. So while I was in town, I decided to meet up with some former Evermore employees and find out more. I also just went ahead and circulated my email address among all the Evermore employees I could get into contact with and said hey, if there's anything you want to share, my inbox is open and tell your friends. Okay, this next section is lawyer approved. I'm just gonna go ahead and read this verbatim to be super safe. Let me put on my fake glasses. Ahem. For legal reasons, I must disclaim that all of the grievances in this section are alleged by past and present employees, in most cases anonymously. Where applicable, I will include email threads and images which have been sent to me, but be aware that I'm unable to verify the authenticity of any of these images, documents, or accounts. I'm just sharing what I've been told. Most or all of these alleged actions, even if true, are probably not illegal. Many, though not all of the workers I spoke with, were only contract workers with the park as opposed to salaried employees. This changes the degree of job security and benefits they're entitled to, and what isn't acceptable behavior on the part of the employer. I am not accusing Evermore of any unlawful treatment of their employees. Okay, let's begin. Many workers allege that paychecks would not arrive on time, or they would arrive and be for insufficient amounts.
Hello, Everfolk. As some of you are aware, the final paycheck for Lore has not yet gone out. Unfortunately, there was a company-wide problem with the last paycheck that was compounded by the Thanksgiving holiday and affected all Evermore employees. Thankfully, the issue has been resolved and the payment is currently being processed.
Why has it taken this long to communicate with us regarding this? The lack of knowledge about the issue of payment should have been addressed immediately to those whose pay was delayed, rather than communicated over a week after payment was expected.
Oh my god. Hold the phone. We got Kingdom Hearts 4 news, y'all. Oh. Wait, do we have a release date? Wait. I don't think we had a release date before, did we? I'm pretty sure we didn't. I've been very casually watching this. Okay, Kingdom Hearts 4 release date. It said something like it's coming to Switch 2. Like, it just ended. Coming to Switch 2 at launch. No. Shit. But that's it? Oh, I got excited for a second. Fuck. I thought we were gonna get like a release date with that. Just like, hey, whenever it comes out. Still don't know when that is, but whenever it does, it's gonna be coming to Switch 2. Ugh. That's much less exciting. I also got completely blue-balled because, like, in the social media thing I was reading through, like I said, I haven't been paying attention really to the Direct itself, but I mentioned that I was really excited for any potential Pikmin news, even though I had no reason to assume that there would be any, and in fact there was not. So let me just go ahead and put on my clown makeup here. But anyway, there was this thing. I was just skimming through, and I saw, like, the thing I was reading through said pick, and I was like, oh! I got all excited. But no, it's Pikuniku 2 out next year, which I've never heard of. So yeah, just the first 3 letters kind of blue-balled me a touch. It's fine. We're fine. Congratulations to everybody that's happy from the Direct. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations.
Technology clauses in the contract agreements we signed for lack of communication about attendance of practices, rehearsals, and shows. I would expect the same respect and punctuality to be communicated to contracted staff regarding lack of payment.
Hello all! I wanted to give you an update on the paycheck that has been delayed. I know that many of you are extremely upset, and you are absolutely within your rights to be upset by this situation. I wish I had answers for you, but I personally have not received any further communication about this situation, or when or how it will be resolved.
Prior to the park's opening, actors were allegedly expected to attend an extensive series of rehearsals for which they were allegedly...
I forgot closed captions this whole time. I'm so sorry. Brain not braining today. Oh, dang it. I was doing so good with remembering the closed captions for a while. Shit.
Not paid and only given a small stipend for gas or transportation. The main costuming facilities were allegedly located off-site, requiring many actors to arrive at the first location, get into costume, and then find their own transportation to the park. They were allegedly not compensated for any of this costuming or transportation time, as it was not considered a part of the duration of their shift. I was forwarded countless alleged communications between Evermore operational staff and the employees, asking them to do additional unpaid labor off the clock as volunteers. These communications allegedly took place primarily on a private Facebook group that the park created to communicate with staff, and also mass emails. Here's a post and another. Here's one asking them to carve pumpkins, cleaning the break rooms, and decorating the park for Christmas. This one appears to be for weeding, a common volunteer chore among employees. Look at that! This is not a social engagement! Then what is it? It's not a job. Hey, back to work. I'm not paying you guys to stand around. Oh, and don't forget to bring your own work boots and safety precautions. Bring your own safety precautions. And finally, my personal favorite volunteer task, hauling a bunch of scarecrows around. At least it's a whimsical chore. Evermore also appears to accept a lot of free labor from their local fans, who are equally devoted to the project. During the pandemic, when they were forced to close, Evermore tried to bring in some extra cash by offering master classes in things like archery and acting. And then, when they were about to reopen for the Aurora season, they needed to do some general upkeep of the grounds. So here's a posting from the fan Discord group for a master class in weeding and setting up Christmas lights. According to the name on the account and my basic search of LinkedIn, this post was made by someone who was at the time the PR manager of the park. He doesn't seem to work there anymore. funny how that keeps happening. The masterclass is $1 per person and includes free pizza. When I first saw this post, I genuinely thought it was a joke, but then I looked at the chat happening around it, and the users were genuinely discussing whether or not they could go. Everybody clearly understood what this event was going to be, referring to it with phrases like volunteer work and work party. The messages also suggest that this is not the first time this happened. So to be clear, I'm not saying that Evermore called it a masterclass in an effort to dupe people. I think everybody signing up knew exactly what it was. So I would imagine the reasoning behind calling it this had more to do with legal deniability. This post from March of 2020 indicates that they believe they're in a gray area for accepting volunteer work as a for-profit company. So if you just call it a masterclass and only charge $1 for it, the volunteers essentially get paid in pizza, and it maybe legally doesn't actually count as volunteer work, even if that's what everyone involved understands it to be. In my opinion. I admit I do find this mention of gray area funny after they have habitually and openly asked for volunteer work and called it volunteer work for years in writing, allegedly. I don't know much about Utah labor laws, but I think they're actually pretty flexible, especially when it comes to contractors, which most of the Evermore employees are. So I doubt that they were in direct violation of any labor laws, but the fact that Evermore apparently didn't even know whether it was legal or not certainly speaks to a level of carelessness, doesn't it? These requests for free labor probably didn't seem too unusual to the employees, who were for the most part young and in some cases still students. You can see in the correspondence how it's framed as a point of pride, an opportunity to prove you're a team player. Weave your personal threads into the Evermore quilt. If you're in a school play, it's normal for the teacher to ask you to come out and help paint the set for free. But this isn't a school play, it's a for-profit company. And none of this was in the job description that any of these people were hired for. But nevertheless, the cast did show up and they did volunteer their time for no additional pay. And the thing is, it's not really about the legality for me. It's about the respect. And there seems to be so little respect for all of these people who are willing to go above and beyond for the park. Because what did they get in return? Bring your own cleaning supplies, bring your own Christmas lights, bring your own safety precautions. This is not a social event. At some point, Evermore created a collectible card game featuring the actors' likenesses. Evermore had the right to do that. It was all within the initial contract. Also, I would kill for a set of these. I think they only sold them for like 3 months. And then they sent out this email like, we're giving away starter decks, but not enough for everybody. If you're too late, you're gonna have to buy it. If your likeness is featured on a card, you can have 1 copy of that 1 card, but that's it. Don't be greedy. Cardstock doesn't just grow on trees. As I touched on earlier, Evermore doesn't seem to have much of a backstage. Supposedly staff have to use the same restrooms as park guests, which I would see as a possible liability. Meanwhile, break rooms and any on-site changing rooms were tucked away into the partially constructed building shells around the park. Some employees have alleged that on one occasion, a male manager entered the women's dressing room unannounced, saying he was looking for supplies, an incident which went unaddressed by the company. Evermore used to have a satyr character named Sloan, which used an actor on some kind of stilt-like apparatus to give him his iconic goat-shaped legs. Many different actors allegedly witnessed an incident in which, during a performance, the leg apparatus failed, wrenching the actor's legs and sending him crashing to the ground, where he lay in agony, unable to see because of his facial prosthetic, in full view of guests until medical help arrived. Allegedly, the apparatus had failed in a similar way on multiple previous occasions, but because it hadn't resulted in injury any of the previous times, it was left unaddressed. Also, allegedly, the fall left the actor with permanent damage to his legs. Allegedly, this was the email sent out following the incident.
Hello, hunters and knights, and stage management, and producers, and full-time actors. As you may or may not know, our poor Sloan has gone missing, and we are going to exploit his injury to the fullest.
This was followed by a document detailing how the hunters are supposed to blame the mages for Sloane's disappearance into the enchanted forest. And the script also seems to have characters reference his fall and possibly attribute it to dark magic.
I know this is crazy short notice to throw a scene at you, but we all fully believe in your improv and character building skills, and we know that each of you will do an amazing job with this. Thank you, everyone. Break a leg.
Break a leg? Really? Come on, guys, read the room. Finally, many actors alleged that they did not feel protected by the park's security and that guests had assaulted and groped them while on the job with seemingly no repercussions. Yeah, all that stuff I said earlier about the park not really having a backstage and many areas being isolated and unprotected with nowhere to escape to, yeah, that wasn't speculation. That was all entirely based off of my conversations with employees. It's worth noting that interactive theatrical experience Sleep No More was allegedly a big inspiration for the the interactivity of Evermore. Sleep No More has been the subject of countless controversies about harassment of its actors for years. So with that to look to as a precedent, I don't understand why Evermore didn't consider this possibility and take more active steps to prevent it. So yeah, this section, this is the crux of it, you guys. You probably spent this whole video like, Jenny, why are you going in so hard on this poor little theme park? Yeah, it's not the best, but they're trying their hardest. It's not like they're really hurting anybody. Why are you bullying them? And there we have it. I don't want to sound too heated about it,
They
but
are
I was really
hurting
disgusted
people,
by what
allegedly.
I saw and heard from former staff. It's hard to root for a supposed underdog when that underdog is eating under cats. I don't know. Evermore asked these people to go above and beyond, and it seems that at every turn, they did. They were willing to put in the extra work and extra time, even uncompensated time, because they had been successfully sold on the dream of the park. And in return, they were disrespected, treated as expendable, endangered, allegedly. Every single person I spoke to had started out with so much excitement about the project and then been steadily worn down and disillusioned over time. And that's a failing on the part of Evermore. That's an embarrassment, in my opinion. Part 19, suggestions. Evermore probably can't afford to hire me as a consultant, so the good news is I'm gonna do it pro bono. I would love to see this park improve, and I have tried to brainstorm some suggestions. Mind you, I'm not going to suggest anything extravagant like a ride, more animatronics, etc. Those all sound great, but I'm only trying to make the most realistic suggestions, ones which will cost a minimal amount to add but can make a noticeable impact on the success of the park. I always hesitate to put a numbered list within a numbered list, so to set this section apart, I will be using thematically appropriate Roman numerals. Roman numeral 1, treat your employees better. Hey, that one's free. Roman numeral 2, sell themed food and make money. Roman numeral 3, a tree with a face. Actually, that's my consulting fee. You have to name the tree after me. Call it my consulting tree. Roman numeral 4, sort out your liquor license so you can make money. Roman numeral 5, market with broad, familiar concepts. Just accept that nobody knows what Evermore is yet. Marketing materials should absolutely emphasize Merlin-looking wizards, pink princesses, fairies that actually look like fairies in that they have wings. Just stop showing characters that are in miscellaneous medieval garb. That's not going to cut it with like a lot of the general public. Roman numeral 6, prioritize interesting things to take photos with so that guests will post about Evermore on social media. Because right now it's kind of just buildings, and most of them aren't finished. Roman numeral 7, offer merch so you can make money. I think even if they just sold like generic Halloween accessories and like flower crowns and stuff, that would still sell pretty well. So I think the above ideas could help get the park out of the red. And now I have a handful of long-term suggestions for when the park is in the yellow, so to speak. Roman numeral 8, microphones. Mic your actors in the important scenes. That will not only get the attention of guests so they can head over and see what's going on and not miss the important scenes, it will also help them to hear what's actually going on when they get there. Remember the scene where the villain Maxwell is taking over the town? He shows up on this grand staircase, posturing with his fireballs, and then you just hear his distant little voice shouting to be heard. Totally undercuts the menace of the scene.
Magician never reveals his tricks. Oh no, we know those coins. Yes, the coins of...
Speak up, buddy! This will also make the tableau feel grander and more official, even if they're not any cooler than they are right now. The presence of microphones just inherently makes something feel like a performance. Roman numeral 9, an app. I've already discussed that in a perfect world, I think that Evermore would more heavily incorporate an app into its gameplay, which you could use to unlock ranks and keep them in a profile, obtain items in your collection, maybe cast spells, which the physical environment would respond to. But considering that like all of the gameplay right now is just joining guilds, I think the barest minimum would be an app where you make a profile and it remembers what guild you've joined and like maybe your level in that guild. If there can't be a tangible reward for quests and there can't even be a story consequence to completing them, they could at least have an intangible way to track your progress and kind of gamify the experience. If you join a guild, that can be displayed on your digital profile, and then you can easily show it to characters to prove that you're in the guild you say you're in. Then it feels like you've actually earned something. It's not that cool, but I feel like it would at least incentivize local kids to keep coming back. This is certainly the most expensive suggestion I've made, made. I know that to get a good app, you have to hire someone who's like super competent, and then you want to keep them on to like debug problems that arise. But I mean, it would do a lot for the park, and it's inexpensive compared to building a ride. Also, I don't know why this wasn't the first priority of a guy who made his fortune creating apps. Some employees told me that an app had actually been mostly made and just never tested or launched. I don't know, maybe it still needed some tweaking or something. If that's true, maybe make finishing that app like your highest priority. Roman numeral 10, it's not too late to change the name. You were so mad at Taylor Swift about ruining your search engine optimization, as if Taylor had any role in that. Evermore is just a word, you guys. You were never gonna own it. You were never gonna have the best search engine optimization. And honestly, your business model shouldn't have to rely on people typing park every time they try to Google you. And now, even if someone does quote search Evermore Park, the top result is going to be an extremely unflattering article about how your park is going out of business because you failed to sue Taylor Swift. But the good news is the marketing of the park has been so ineffective thus far that it's not even that much of a loss if you just stop being called Evermore. I think if you want a strong trademark, the most straightforward solution would be to just make a portmanteau of two vaguely fanciful words, because then you have a made-up word that you can claim as your own, but people hearing it said out loud will be able to accurately guess how to spell it in a search engine and also understand that it's in some way fantasy related. Everscape, Wonderbound, Realmport, Venture Park, Runewood, Braveshire, Elfhaven, Questmore, Dream Place. I honestly could go on and on with more suggestions, but those are just my top 10, so I hope they think about them, especially the tree with a face. Part 20, the end. I don't mean the end of Evermore, but I might mean that soon. When I wanted to make a video about Evermore, I knew it was struggling. I knew it had undergone a lot of changes from concept to reality. But I was thinking, hey, I love escape rooms, I love themed environments. Even if they don't have rides, a LARP-based theme park sounds pretty fun. And honestly, I thought my YouTube channel might provide decent publicity. I also thought this video would be 30 minutes long. And look at us now. Having experienced it and having done my research, I cannot possibly recommend this park to anyone. There's so little indication that any thought is put into guest experience. If anything, the marketing feels deceptive, in my opinion, as if the goal now is just to wring as many dollars as possible out of the locals by exaggerating the park's offerings, like those roadside attractions along Route 66. And that's a shame, because it's apparent that that hasn't always been the case. There has been love here from many people involved in the project at many steps in the process. But I can't in good faith say, yeah, give it a shot, because if so much was out of commission when I went, and in fact has been that way since they opened, why should I assume it'll be any better when you go? And with no apparent customer service department, if you go and you feel scammed, you're completely out of luck, and then it's my fault for sending you. I also can't recommend it in good conscience because I'm concerned about all the crops of bright-eyed employees being ground up beneath the wheels of this machine. Metaphorically. No one's been run over by the train. Yet. I was really rooting for Evermore for like years, before it was even born. I'm fortunate that at least I'm doing a video about it, so my trip wasn't a total waste. I can't imagine how sad and disappointed I would feel if I went as a tourist, especially one who had consumed the blatantly misleading marketing materials. In my opinion, some time has passed now since my visit, and maybe there have been positive changes. I have kept my eye on the reviews and on the fan Discord, and it doesn't seem that way. But maybe. I can see from their website that they offer an annual pass now, and it's $350, which is more than an annual pass for Universal Studios, and actually more than the nationwide annual pass that gets you into every single Cedar Fair park. To justify the expense, Evermore has added up the total number of nights they're open every season and calls them shows, which that feels a little misleading, doesn't it? They also offered some kind of extremely sketchy sounding summer camp, $200 for 4 days, only 2.5 hours a day, does not include lunch, for ages 6 to 13. What, all in one group? Anyone that's worked with kids knows that's quite a difference in age. And the advertising video is bizarre. I don't recognize any of these locations as existing in the park. Like, what is this Hogwarts room? And these llamas that appear to be in a forest? Where did they get this footage? There are a lot of red flags there. I wonder if anyone paid for that. And look at the website's description of Mythos. A lot of the attractions listed just straight up weren't there when I went. Most notably the Lantern Festival part, which is, you know, the whole theme. And then the rest of the list leans heavily on vague phrasing. Whoever wrote this copy surely knew that none of these things were actual organized activities. in my opinion. These are all just things you can look at for 20 seconds. This feels so willfully disingenuous, and that really rubs me the wrong way. And look here, still using early concept art, most of which is extremely misleading and some of which doesn't even resemble anything that can be found in the park. And this is a pattern you might have noticed in all of Brett Schneider's projects. He overpromises to a comical degree. This is probably a great way to get employees on board and get investors, and it's probably served him well in his past career as an app developer. But in this article from 2018, Brett Schneider told the Deseret News that he'd only ever secured about $4 million of investor money. He ponied up the rest of the budget himself, speculated to now be over $30 million.
We thought with our funds, we could leverage those, really get a lot of other investors interested. But what happened was I found out that nobody likes to try new things, and they're too nervous about it.
And according to more recent materials, he doesn't even want more investors.
We're building a park based on Ken's wealth. That's what we're doing, and that's not a mystery. It shouldn't be a mystery anywhere. Ken wants ownership on this. This is his dream. So he didn't want to sell out.
When you start bringing customers in, it's time to be honest about what you're actually offering, which right now is not that much. Otherwise, you'll have customers show up one time, feel scammed, and never return, which might work as a fine business model for a traveling carnival, but this is a static, physically built theme park in a small community that relies on local business. You need to step back and honestly evaluate what your park is offering your guests. And if the truth is too embarrassing, instead of lying, you need to improve your park.
Final thoughts on Evermore.
It was okay.
There were only like 2 characters that we saw when you're supposed to interact with characters like wherever you go.
It was like the majority of it felt still unfinished.
It's just unfinished.
Anyway, if Evermore has any response to my video, it'll probably be to unsuccessfully try to sue me. That would suck for them. But no, my second guess is that they'll be like, that's not fair. We were hit hard by the pandemic. To which I say, the park has never been in top form and has seemingly been in steady decline for years. And the website doesn't indicate that if you go right now, there will be limited offerings. They're acting like everything's fine, and it's not. Or perhaps Evermore will say they were ahead of their time, or blame the locals for not getting it.
If you want to see something that's also in an environment that's incredibly challenging, Evermore's another good example. We built it out of a dusty cornfield, with no budget, around a culture of people that don't really understand the arts.
And that's really an indefensible position because, like, first of all, nobody forced you to build this. Nobody forced you to build it in Utah. Secondly, Utah has no shortage of nerdy people or bored people, families with young children who would love a fantasy park. In fact, a lot of Evermore fans, including former employees, have begun their own LARP group and meet in public parks to continue the spirit of what they wanted Evermore to be. Clearly, the demand is there. Evermore is simply not meeting it. Even the small, dedicated fan groups of Evermore are always saying things like, you get what you put into it. You have to make your own fun. And, excuse me, no I don't. When I pay to go to a theme park, they make my fun. That is what a theme park is. My squad and I showed up fully ready to engage and to play. We were in costume. My friends do D&D and stuff like that, and Evermore truly gave us nothing to work with. When I look at Evermore, all I see are cool ideas and limitless potential being squandered. I mean, they managed to find a cast of actors so dedicated that they were willing to come in on their day off and crawl around in the hot sun pulling weeds for no money, and they managed to blow that too by not making them feel valued or safe. Yes, Evermore has been a victim of poor funding and the pandemic, and that really sucks. But it's more so a victim of its own folly and poor planning. The story of Evermore is like watching the slow death of a dream. Obviously, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into it, and I hope it improves and survives. I know I'd like to live in a world where eccentric millionaires open their own theme parks, completely independent of major corporations. I think it's a cool premise, and it's cool to see a theme park in this era that's not totally dependent on a major intellectual property. In countless interviews and even the ribbon-cutting speech, Brett Schneider kept emphasizing that he wasn't in this to make money, that he'd already been a very wealthy man. He could have just retired young and spent his days relaxing, but Evermore was his dream.
I'm not doing this because Ken Bretschneider wants to get rich, or I've had the fortune of kind of getting there already, creating a company called Digicert. What I'm really doing with this is I'm getting back to my artistic roots, and it was really important to me that we stay private as a company, that we grow this thing out as a collective, and that I'm not looking to sell this. I'm not looking to flip this. It's not a play to make a bunch of money. It's a play to create amazing experiences for people in the world, to do something that they don't often get to do, which is escapism into the world of imagination.
And the thing is, I believe him, but he decided to turn his dream into a business. And
that's also the thing. Like, if he really meant that, then in a way that's kind of sad. But I have a difficult time feeling sympathy for a CEO who allegedly treated their employees so atrociously. You know, like, if it was something like, you know, he treated everyone better, but just the circumstances weren't on their side. They didn't try to get greedy with a lawsuit against Taylor Swift, and it's just, they just ended up failing despite going into it in good faith and trying their best and treating everyone fairly, then I feel like that's something more that I and many other people could get behind. Because it feels like the sentiment and the idea could be there. But they just made, and by they I mean the CEO, really, because at the end of the day he was in charge of everything. But they made some really bad, greedy, selfish, terrible decisions, allegedly, in my opinion. Blah, 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 blah.
when your dream is a business and your business has employees and contractors, you're tangling other people's lives up in the success of your dream.
I'm so excited to be a part of this because we get to create a world of our making, our imagination, and there's so many people on our team, our creative team, that adds a layer to each part of this story.
Chief Creative Officer Josh Shipley left the Walt Disney Company, where he'd been an Imagineer for 21 years.
It had enough pull and enough allure to make me go, I want to build Evermore.
I was driving to Evermore Park from this small town that my sister lives in here in Utah, and I was staying with her at the time. And I was literally working for Ken for free.
They're putting their faith in you to keep it afloat, and you have to take it seriously. You can't just give up on it when it's no longer what you wanted anymore, and you're bored of it. And you have to respect your customers, who are also putting their faith in you to deliver on what you promised. You have to be honest about what's on offer.
I was going to ask about the gamification, so people they build up skills, don't they? Is that right? So you can
Yeah, they do. And again, that's part of the gaming aspect of, it can be competitive, there can be questing, there can be, we do very complex concepts.
I'm sure some of you guys, having watched this video, are still gonna want to go. And, that's fine. That's cool. At least you'll have a realistic idea of what to expect now. And who knows, maybe if the park makes more money, they'll put it toward positive changes. I mean, nothing about their past spending habits have suggested that'll happen. But maybe they'll eventually pay their contractors. Maybe they'll treat their employees better. Maybe they'll improve the gameplay. Who knows? Anything's possible. Okay, I think that's it. I really would have preferred to make a 30-minute travelogue, just for the record.
Well, where did all my ad snoozes go? Did Maud just go ham in the past, stream or two and just click all the ad snoozes?
Gates are open, we've got until July. Pins and tokens, only things you can buy.
This is what I really appreciate about. This isn't a thing that's solely exclusive to Jenny, but some other people do this, but especially in her videos, she has themed credit songs, custom made. It's a very nice touch.
Staring out at office buildings over the fence, and I couldn't be sure. I had a feeling so peculiar that this park could be forevermore. Same world walkers, trying all the
R.I.P. to the satyr.
I read on the train, but all the music's wrong. Takes me out of time with every song. Quiet dragons basking in the sun.
Alright, oh. Lago sees a bird outside the window. Okay, I think that will do it for me today. I'm gonna go take a nap. Because I need it. If Lago will let me. If he'll stop barking at birds. So tomorrow we should hopefully be back with more Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Hopefully, if we do, it's Monolith Day. We're gonna go fight the Paintress. And oh, I'm dreading it, but also kind of excited. Anyways, I appreciate you all so very much for hanging out with me and hope you have an absolutely wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it may be for you. And until next time, I will see you folks later. Bye-bye. I hope y'all got something you wanted out of the frickin' Nintendo Direct. Congratulations. I'm happy for you. So happy.